And we're live.
Okay, hello and welcome back to the BCH Blaze stream series. Today is Saturday, the 22nd of November, and there's just a little bit under 24 hours until the submission deadline closes. This is our stream to remind you of the final requirements, hand out some little bits of encouragement to everyone, and also hear from the judges and Jonathan how they've been finding the event so far. I think it's been pretty successful, but we'll get their point of view. We also have some of the hackers here with us. Perhaps they'll chime in and give a little bit of their thoughts on what the experience has been like, and trash talk that I keep trying to encourage people to trash talk their competition in the interviews and stuff, but it doesn't really work. Everyone's too much aligned on the same page. In any case, let's just get straight into it. So the critical points that everybody needs to remember: the closing time for the hacking is 2 p.m. UTC on Sunday, the 23rd. So that is in just under 24 hours from now. At that time, you have to cease all of your work on the Git repositories, on your templates, on your any related promotional materials, on any deploys that you've done. If you've hosted a demo, anything like that, you just got to stop everything. Of course, you can still keep working on your project if you're already excited to carry on with it, but just make a fork of it, make a new branch and carry it on, in a different repository or something like that, because all the materials that the judges need to look at have to be frozen in time at that moment. And obviously, if you're continuing to work on it after that deadline and we catch you doing it, then you will potentially be disqualified. So just be very careful about that. Of course, you have to submit a BUIDL on Dorahacks. Most people seem to have managed that quite successfully, so that's really good to see. We have rejected a couple of the BUIDLs that people submitted, but some of them seem to just be AI generated by bots. But if you are a real person and you've had your BUIDL rejected, you can, of course, reach out to us in the Telegram group and talk to us, and we'll explain what it is that we were confused by or what you need to update to get it accepted. The two most important things that we need everyone to do with their BUIDLs on Dorahacks is right at the top. In the very first piece of information we need to see is two things. Number one is a Widget Factory template. Jet is going to show everyone that, which is at the link here, and it's also listed on the Dorahacks Resources page. And that we have a template so you can make a little summary of your app, and then it looks like this, right? And then you just change, the name, you change your team members, maybe make a little cool logo with AI, you write a little summary, you put some story there. If you want to make it compelling, think about like an investor pitch. Then we have some of the benefits. You've got to say, like, why is your project the best thing ever? If you are in the Layla mainnet and the Layla chipnet track, you can put an example of your use of the new chips so that the judges can kind of get straight to the meat of it right there. And then you can also put a little bit about your vision, like what would you do? It's the same questions I've been asking in the builder interviews, really. Like how would people be excited to invest in your project, collaborate with you, or give you the prizes from BCH Blaze? So find this template, make a copy of it. It should only take you 20 minutes or less, and just fill it out with the information for your project, and then put that link at the top of the Dorahacks BUIDL so that people can see it, the number one thing. And the second thing you really want to have is a cash tokens enabled BCH address right at the top. That way people can send you, and you can also put a QR code if you want as well, but put there's text and QR code. That way people can easily come along and scan it and send you EMBER votes for the community choice prize. And they can also just donate money to you if they think, wow, this project is awesome and I would love to support it. Finally, of course, if you are in the chipnet track, you do have to have used some of the Layla upgrades. If you're in the mainnet track, the bounties, or for the community choice, that is optional. But for the chipnet track, you have to have a Layla upgrade. So those are really the key things. Widget Factory template, cash tokens address, and chipnet submissions have to have the Layla upgrade. If you're in the other track, you can just delete that slide in the template in Widget Factory. It doesn't matter. So those are the absolute most clear things that we wanted to be totally clear with everyone about. Okay, then we also have a cash stamp. Boom. Sneak in there and grab some little BCH Satoshis. And on the next slide, we have a little bit of stats that I've picked up from how the event has been going. So right now we have 117 hackers registered on Dorahacks. And at the time when we had 97 hackers, it's grown since then, there was about 38 people reading the Dorahacks messages. So it's kind of good to know that maybe around 60% of Dorahacks can kind of be botted. I just found that kind of interesting, but we're very pleased, I would say, with the turnout. We've approved 20 BUIDLs, and I'm aware of at least 2 of the bounties which have direct submissions targeting them, but there could perhaps also be more as well. So it's great to see everyone engaging with that. Okay, well, that's my little intro. Let's cut now to Jonathan, of course, Blaze founder and visionary. Jonathan, how you been feeling about Blaze? What's your impression after watching the hacking go down for a week?
I'm feeling great about the current state, but before we move on to that, let's go back to the last slide. I have some points I want to make.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that we only had about 40% response rate to the message we sent out. This, of course, does not necessarily mean that the other 60% are bots. It's simply just that not all hackers are going to be actively engaging, right? They register as hackers to sign up for interest. And then if there are no interesting ideas or projects or things to work on, if they can't find and form a team, for example, then maybe they just moved on to something else. Like, it's natural to have a certain rate of people that aren't actively engaging. But we have, like, more of those numbers have responded over time. And I have noticed that the closer we get to the deadline, the more people tend to start actually engaging with us. I don't know if that's because they start late and just try to sprint everything at the very end, or if it's because they started working and they didn't care about Dorahacks, and a couple of days later, they're like, okay, now it's time to submit. Oh, wait, oh, this and this and this will happen. I don't know. So
Panic Monster is real.
Yeah, Panic Monster is absolutely real. Really useful too if you know how to harness it. Yeah. Let's see here. How do I feel about it? So I feel great about the way Blaze is looking up right now. I had an expectation that we'd get about 20 submissions in total. We have 27 right now, and I expect more to come in as we get closer to the actual deadline tomorrow. I don't know how many of them are going to actually reach the finish line and end up meeting all the requirements for actually participating. But it's really happy to see how many have engaged and made an effort and started doing things. I also knew kind of from the start that it wasn't very likely that we would get like top tier, really, really high level talent, like people who are doing very complex math or who otherwise could have jobs at very high paying salaries, because hackathons, generally speaking, are for people that have more time and talent than they have opportunity to deploy that time and talent. But I still think we're seeing a very healthy amount of engagement. And I have a personal pet project that I'm looking forward to see as a submission in the coming day.
Yes, and of course, it's also the case that Blaze is completely new, and the prize pool is not like I looked on Dorahacks. The number one thing is AWS Hackathon with $700,000 in prizes, right? So we don't yet have that enormous prize pool to attract just flocks of people from all over the industry. But we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, but if you compare actually to more closer to apple, at least fruit to fruit comparison, you can see that in other hackathons that are related to cryptocurrencies, that aren't specifically Bitcoin or Ethereum, but any other cryptocurrency, we're actually doing fairly good. We have a very high engagement rate. We are up in the hundreds of hackers, which is actually not bad at all, given the price pool we have and the niche space we take up. Of course, if it were an Ethereum or EVM-related hackathon, I would assume the numbers would be higher than they are right now. But again, this is the first time we're doing this, and we are seeing a very large amount of people coming in from other ecosystems and looking at it. Last time I checked, it was about 1/3 of the people that have prior BCH experience, which means 2/3 of the people coming in were actually from other ecosystems. And so maybe this is kind of like the wake-up call, right? That we're looking at, like price takes off, and suddenly people realize that, hey, Bitcoin is no longer a system that doesn't have loops.
Yes. Yes, of course, the price is pumping right now, which is a bit tangential, but it's good to see. It means the prize pool is growing in real time as well, too. The prizes are, of course, fixed in BCH, so it's nice to see some price gains there, and very happy with that. What have you felt about sort of the chatter that's been going on? The Telegram group has been pretty active. It's nice to see people asking questions and helping each other out. What have you made of that?
Yeah, it started out in the week as fairly quiet, and I think that's kind of just on me for having set up the Telegram groups the way I did, where we directed people into an announcement channel. They could, of course, just clicked on the announcement and started chatting around them, but after we made the change to a more open chat and directed people to the chat side of it, and as the days went by, I've seen more and more engagement. I also seen a lot of the people who initially popped up in the Blaze channel have starting asking questions and making noise in other channels in the BCH ecosystem. So it's really nice to see that they are taking like many steps out and getting engaged with not just like the minimum required part that we have here, but actually utilizing all the resources that exist in the ecosystem to get their submissions done.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've been really glad to see the variety of people that we've had. I've been glad to see people helping each other. I think certainly I'm noticing that definitely as the BCH ecosystem, or if we're going to run this next year or whatever, we could maybe do a little better with having the tooling ready and also having some, tutorials like the DApp starter definitely got some use, but it could have been like the README could have explained that a little bit better. So I think that's something on us that we can do a better job of launching things smoothly. But by and large, people seem to be finding the tools that they need. And I think this is probably the most usage that ChipNet and TestNet have ever got in their life, probably, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I mean, it is the first time we are doing this. And we also changed our mind about the scope of the event pretty close to actual launch of it to include the mainnet track. And we also have been growing the number of bounties over time. It's not like we had a fixed plan from the beginning and then spent all of our time and resources committing to that specific plan. We have been adapting as we go. I also, we did make the choice to run this on the lock-in day, which of course turned out that not all the tooling is going to be available on lock-in day, because it's only after lock-in that people are confident that it's actually going to happen and therefore start committing resources to building the things. So maybe for next year, we'll run it a bit later if we do it again. Yeah, I will say that I was hoping to see more people use BitAuth in order to use ShipNet features that isn't existing in CashCrypt at the moment. But maybe that'll come in the coming days.
Yes, it's certainly a pretty intense thing to get stuck straight into, especially if you're coming across from another ecosystem for the first time. Or I've seen a bit of a trend as well too in people that have some technical experience, but this is their first BCH experience, and Blaze has really encouraged them to jump in, which is great. But It also means maybe the ecosystem needs to grow a little bit more before we have some more of those experienced mentors on hand to say, hey, check this out or look into this, and people just need to make use of what they can find initially, right?
I've seen a handful of people in the chat kind of stumble and fumble around the same kind of issues that I did when I was new to this. Like a very classic example is like, why are some things little endian and some things are big endians, right? When you're working with hashes, two things that are so very different looking, if you put them side by side, that you can't even compare and say, hey, the same thing, unless you really, really look carefully. And you don't get any good error explanations for why something goes wrong, because it's just like, this hash isn't the right hash. It's not what you expect. But I think we do have a lot of documentation in the ecosystem, and a lot of mentorship and people willing to help out is in fact in place. But for a hackathon on a limited time period, I can understand that it's a bit of a difficulty to kind of get past that in some cases when you're on that deadline.
Yeah, and people don't always have immediate access to those things. I mean, we're trying to make it as accessible as we can, but there's a lot of work I'm sure we can still do to get it in front of people. But sounds like, in summary, you're pretty happy with how things are going and optimistic for the showcase next week, I guess, then, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, amazing. Well, let's check in a little bit with our judges. Firstly, we have a sneaky slide for another cash stamp. So anybody sitting there with their wallet ready to go, you can pick up a few more sats. Once again, thank you to stamps.cash for sponsoring this event. They've been great, and I'm looking forward to hearing Steve Thurman's review of the projects that we produce. In fact, we've had several projects interested in the idea of doing physical BCH notes and so forth, right? So that's a great thing that people can build on. But let's cut now to our judges. Emergent Reasons has joined us on the stream again from GP to give us his thoughts on how Blaze has been going, and a long-time veteran of not only BCH, but I'm sure also many hackathons and product development methodologies. How have you been finding Blaze? Give us your overall impression from 1 week of hacking.
I think Jonathan's one of his nice phrases that he said just now is a good representative of probably any kind of time, deadline submission thing like a hackathon. He said, "I'm really looking forward to the things that are coming in the coming day." There's one day left.
24 hour.
That's just the reality, right? Not days, day. So I've been watching since the beginning, and the number of projects has just been increasing as time goes on. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what shows up in the pool. I've looked through every project, and I'm watching and seeing how the progress grows. So I'm very happy to see the submissions. There's some, like in any process, there's some that stand out from the others, and whether it's because of the technical content or their ability to communicate about it, or like the actual choice of use case that they have or whatever, different people are standing out in different ways. So it's still an open field. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. I did want to say one thing. It was mentioned about we're not as big as AWS and so forth, but there's one thing I think that we have probably almost all other ecosystems beat on, and that is the bounties, right? Because we have a very high agency ecosystem where it's not a bunch of people just waiting for the king to do the thing or to make the decision. And those bounties are not from, giant companies. Those are individuals, sometimes they're organizations, but those are bounties from people who are like, hey, I really want to see this happen. And that's fantastic. I love to see that. It's not just the organizers making things happen. It's the organizers and it's the aligned ecosystem who want to see things happen. So I've been very happy to see the bounties, actually.
Yeah, the bounties have actually been very popular, and I can say I offered 2 bounties, and I think for both of them, I've had people reach out to me and talk to me about it, a little bit about their concept and so forth. I haven't seen so much demos just yet, but I'm really looking forward to seeing that, and I'm sure the same is happening for the other people sponsoring bounties as well. It's been very popular, more popular than I expected, honestly, to offer those bounties. And we might try and find a way to make it a year-round kind of thing, because why not? You know, we can just have a board or a website or something where people can easily offer those bounties. I always think of it, you know, we have FundMe and Flipstarter, which are somebody who has an idea and they have the execution, the willingness to do it, but not the money. And then the bounties is the other side of that. It's somebody who has the idea and the money, but not the execution. And you can just plug that in with somebody new coming in. So that's been great to see. You mentioned that some projects have been standing out and catching your eye. Do you want to give us a hint maybe of a couple of projects that maybe caught your eye and why? I mean, there's still a little bit of time left, so perhaps other projects can learn, oh, they've got a slick looking logo or something like that, and maybe they can pivot more in that direction.
I won't call them out by name, but they're the ones that match what I said I'm looking for, which is, you know, people who have looked for something interesting, like a real problem to solve, something that somebody faces, like some individual or organization faces, and try to present a solution. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but it, you know, has to try to solve some kind of real problem. Those are great, and I love to see those. There's one that solves exactly a problem that I have. So I'm kind of happy to see that one, and I'm really hoping that it works because I want to use it. And then there's others who, you know, are putting their kind of flavor into it. They're presenting it. They're putting stuff on YouTube, or like actually talking and showing and putting themselves out there for it. That's big. And others that communicate well, you know, just the thought is structured, the presentation is structured and well understood. It's even a bonus if it looks nice, you know, and it's presented well. So yeah, those kind of things stand out for me. And I even saw one or two that stood out on the third criteria I have, which is a safety mindset, where it was obviously written and discussed in terms of there's all these things that can go wrong, and these are the ones that I've handled, and these are the ones that I don't handle, and that kind of thing. So yeah, I've been happy to see all of my boxes getting ticked in various places. So it's good stuff. I also wanted to say, Jeremy, the interviews you've been doing are great. Really appreciate those.
Yes, I've had a lot of fun doing those, actually. And I said that to people before the interviews often, is that for me, it's been a bit of a discovery process, because I know people popping up in Telegram and they say, you know, I just said, does anybody want to volunteer to do the interviews? I didn't even chase people down. I just said, anybody who wants to give it a go, you know, can do that. Obviously, it helps to get your project a little bit of extra visibility, but it can be intimidating to jump on a stream like that and, you know, show what you've been doing. But I've been super impressed, because every time I just load up the stream to do the interview, I don't know who's going to come up on the other end of the line, and everyone has been awesome.
That's great.
You know, everyone's just like, it's a very diverse mix of people. They have very different ideas. They're from different parts of the world, you know, and how they have a different story. About some of them have been in BCH a long time. Some have only just more recently joined the community. Some have more cryptocurrency background. Some have less, you know, what kind of idea appeals to them, whether it was like a specific bounty that got them interested, or just the general concept of BCH or something they'd seen on social media. It's been amazing. So we've got the 3 interviews out already, and there's 2 more that I've already done, which will be coming during the next week. So while all the hackers are relaxing, sitting at home, waiting for the judging to go on, you'll be able to check in on those builder interviews as well too.
Nice.
All right. Maybe we can also get some thoughts from our other judge, Josh, that has joined us on the stream. Josh, how have you been seeing the Blaze experience so far?
I've been pretty excited, actually. I've been looking at all the projects and actually really surprised about some of the polish that I saw. You know, presentation of your project is important just because it's thorough, right? It conveys your idea better. It gets it out to the community. And most importantly, the best ideas need adopters, right? People to use the new technology. So the more inviting it is to use, the more likelihood, people are excited to try it out and do the things that they want to do with those new products. And then I saw a lot of stuff with, READMEs included, like the submissions, including the cache script commands and all of the stuff that builders were using. I love the knowledge exchange that's happening there. So overall, definitely excited.
Have you had any particular projects that caught your eye? You might want to be like Emergent and just keep it on the down low. You don't necessarily have to call out anyone specifically, but is there some theme maybe that you're noticing in the projects that are standing out more than others?
Definitely. I see things that are geared for people that want to use peer-to-peer cache using the new features in our scripting tier. And that makes me really, really happy. How do we more easily and safely use our peer-to-peer cache? This is an awesome thing to solve. Also, how do we make our systems more resilient? We care about this decentralized future, and that's why it took us a long time to figure out the best way for token systems to work and for cache tokens to actually be created. All of this was really done on purpose just to make sure we had the best possible scalable solutions that we could keep decentralized and keep these like centralized players out of it. So us being able to mirror each other's content and use each other's stuff, I think is actually really important as well. So yeah, a lot of cool submissions. Those were probably some hints the project teams might understand.
Pick up on. Yes. Well, the proof will be in the pudding. I just thought it was funny. As Emergent was saying, the submissions tend to be like on an exponential, It was the same when I was doing my university degree, and the professors and stuff would always say like they could see when the submissions were coming in, and it would always be like a couple of very smart students submitted a week in advance, and then there would be a couple, 24 to 48 hours. And then as it got to like the last 5 minutes, just the submissions, it's just ramping up until right at the cutoff, So I'm sure we'll still be seeing some new bangers drop. And also teams might have invested different amount of time in how much they put their polish up front and versus building it, in the back end or doing the back end and then putting the front end on it later, right?
Exactly. There's a lot of different things at play. It has to function. It has to work well. It has to be usable. So these are the most important things.
One thing I found really interesting as well is we didn't know, obviously, whether we would have a lot of individual contributors, whether we would have a lot of teams. We created the scope of between 1, 2, 3, or 4 people on a team. From my observations so far, most people are doing it solo, and a couple of people, there's been teams of 2. I don't know that I'm aware of any teams of 3 or 4, which makes me think that firstly, it might be a case of this is just new, so people don't already have, strong connections in the ecosystem, but also maybe that as Blaze and, as the mentors and judges and so forth, we can do a better job of creating the chances for people to connect, to form those teams. Or do you think people just like to have control of their own project? I'm wondering if you had a take on that.
I have a thought here. So I think that this is the first time we do it, and it's predominantly people outside of the BCH industry participating. And some of those are going to win some tickets to Blaze, and some of those are going to volunteer to come to Blaze on their own volition afterwards. And after having met a bunch of people on Blaze, if we run it again, I think many people are going to come back, and they're going to be much better prepared and have ideas that they have brought with them for a long time, and just go ahead and try to execute in next year if we run it again.
Yeah, that's true. It's got to be a little bit of the pipeline. Things are always a lot easier to believe in once you've met somebody in person, shaken their hand, seen their smiling face, not through a computer screen. It just all feels a lot more real, Then I even get that when I'm in the Blaze Telegram group now, the names pop up of some of the people that I interviewed, and now I can see them in my mind, sitting there working away on their project. So it's a huge boost to community cohesion to have these kind of events, I think. Josh, any other final thoughts you wanted to add on what you've made of the Blaze experience so far and what you're looking forward to for the showcase next week?
Well, just the last comment is just the hockey stick is real, right? I think that there's going to be more submissions at the last hour. People want to submit, their best chance of success. And generally, unless you're not working until the last minute, right? Like you're going to want to be as far along as possible and show us what you have. So I see most likely not just new submissions, but updates to existing submissions, most likely.
Yes, that's very true. And of course, yeah, people are welcome to be updating it and so forth right up until the last second, just as long as you stop at the deadline. That's completely fine. Okay, we have another cash stamp as well for somebody to grab. And I also just wanted to give a brief mention of the builder interview series that has already been brought up. Big shout out as well to PJ Man 7, Jarhat, and Cosmos and Clara for joining me on those. You can go on the Bitcoin Cash podcast YouTube channel or on the Blaze Twitter feed as well. And you can watch all of those. They're about 20, 30 minutes each. And hopefully it gives you a little insight into who else is working at Blaze. And just honestly, it's been really fun to hear a little bit more from the community. It's been great to have all these people appear who previously I am obsessed with BCH. I'm watching it all day, every day. I've interviewed so many people in BCH, and yet there's just like new people popping up all over the place. And I really wanted to give a mention to those people for having the courage as well to jump on those interviews and put themselves out there, because building in public is certainly the best way to get extra help and assistance from the community. Once people know who you are, it's easier for them to help you out. So speaking of building in public, we also have a video from one of our projects who submitted to me a little demo video. It's about 2.5 minutes of their Fortress Vault project. So we're just gonna play that now, and Furkan is in the chat and in the stream live as well. So if anybody has any questions or comments about this, you can either put it in the chat on the stream or in the Blaze Telegram group and maybe get an answer for that.
Welcome to Fortress Vault, the world's first theft-resistant Bitcoin Cash wallet. Usually, if your private key is stolen, it is game over. But we are changing the rules. Let's connect to get started. Creating a vault is simple. First, enter a rescuer address. This could be your hardware wallet. Next, set a daily withdrawal limit. This restricts how much an attacker can take. Now, create the vault, verify the details, and sign the transaction. This deploys a smart contract directly on the blockchain. There are no back-end servers involved. The dashboard scans the chain to find your vault. Now, let's fund it. We will send some Bitcoin Cash to this new, secure address. Your funds are now protected by the covenant. We are waiting for the transaction to confirm. Once confirmed, your funds are secured by the smart contract rules. You remain in full control, but with a safety net. Let's simulate a security breach. Imagine a hacker gets your key. They will try to withdraw everything immediately, but with Fortress Vault, they are trapped by the daily limit. This is your panic button. If you see suspicious activity, don't worry. Connect your rescuer wallet. This is the cold wallet you defined earlier. The rescuer key overrides all limits. With one click, you can sweep 100% of your funds to safety. The attacker watches helplessly as you save your assets. The rescue is complete. Let's check the blockchain. The vault is empty, and the funds are safe in your cold storage. The attacker got 0 Satoshis. Fortress Vault turns a catastrophic hack into a minor inconvenience. Secure, serverless, built on Bitcoin Cash.
Amazing. There we go. So I don't know if everybody else is going to be doing little demo AI assisted YouTube videos, but watching that, it certainly made it so clear to me instantly what the product is, how it worked, and how it shows off sort of BCH technology. I also love the design. It's very, very clear. Green button, red button to panic. I'm not sure if it is supposed to be that, you know, you would have the emergency rescue only accessible on a different site for the person who created the wallet, or, you know, hidden from attackers somehow, or whether it's just that the emergency rescue is no use to a hacker, because if they push that button, they're immediately going to lose the ability to try and withdraw the funds. But that was amazing to see, and I think it might be interesting to see, if other projects have a similar approach to demoing their product. Jonathan, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a very useful product to have. I like the first thing that some people might think when they see this is that, okay, but what about the rescue key? What about if they lose that one? But the covenant, the contract, is designed such that the rescue key can only send funds in one specific direction. So even if they if they got a hack, they can send it somewhere else. Of course, if the rescue key corresponds to that place where the money is being sent, then they can just take the money after they have moved. I think it's a fairly good user experience, what I can see. It's an interesting project.
What do you think, Emergent and Josh? Do you have any thoughts on, particularly from a judging point of view, because teams have to decide, let's say in their last 24 hours, do they try and spend, a couple hours to make a demo video like this, or do they just type up an explanation of what they're doing and then let the product speak for itself? As a judge, how does this kind of presentation impact on your thinking?
I think that the presentation really does matter, just to make sure that the judges know exactly what you're envisioning the end user experience to look like. And they can be write-ups, and we're going to be using the tools no matter what. But it's nice to have just the clear step-by-step, and more importantly, have it be approachable by anyone, right? Like a product like this, there's not many moving parts here. It solves a real need. And I like the idea of being able to set up your rescue wallet and just make sure you don't get drained completely, right? Of course, they're going to get that first, daily withdrawal worth of funds from you, but that's way better than the catastrophic failure case. And what I'd be curious about is, well, how do I make it easy for me to spend the money I have in my vault, and make sure that that's easy for me to send around? I think that's also important.
Emergent, any thoughts? Should teams, spend the extra 3 or 4 hours on just improving their product, or is it worth them investing some time in a little demo video like this?
Well, it's one of those things where if you have a team, or if you happen to be a genius or whatever who can do all the different things, then of course it's better to have a clear presentation and a usable demo that's like, the top tier of presenting things. But if you don't have a team, or you don't have those skills, because that's a whole nother skill set, to make a nice website. And then it's a whole nother skill set to make a website that is actually easy to use, and a service that's easy to use. These are all like specific skills that take time to learn and deploy, and it's another skill set to make it look nice. But if you can do that, of course. But if you can't, just don't forget, clarity is what really matters. The communication of what it is you're trying to accomplish, how it actually works, all those things that Josh said, you can accomplish without a demo necessarily, if you can show people the vision of how it's supposed to work, as long as what you're presenting actually matches what you created. You can't present and here's a whole application, but your code only does 1/10 of that. You can't do that. That won't help you. But it is important to present it well, whatever it is. So you definitely need to take some time to present what you've done well, whether that's in a demo or just in a walkthrough or whatever it is.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot to be said from making it super, super easy, because ultimately a commercial product needs that, right? Even if you've got something that's super amazing, if the consumers don't get it, they have a limited attention span and they'll just move on to the next thing, right? The next TikTok video, the next whatever, right?
Yeah. Well, I do want to say, add on a little caveat there. This isn't, the judges here are very highly competent.
Yes.
So don't try to pass off a presentation of what it does and it doesn't actually do that, because that'll definitely be found. There's no chance that this group of people is going to miss that. So if you're presenting something, present what you've made, not what you wish you could have made. Because if that comes across as trying to be misleading, then you'll surely get knocked down for that.
Well, I don't mind though if they make something and they say in the future I want to be doing these.
Of course, if it's clear, right? Yeah, there's no if the expectation is clear, this is what was actually accomplished and this is how I envision it working in the future. Absolutely.
Yeah, for the sake of the hackathon, of course, we can only judge for what's actually being built. But I want to make a quick note. So Josh mentioned that, like, how do you spend from this, like, as in a normal usage case? And I think for the sake of this hackathon, like, you're proving a concept, right? And you're also working with the tooling that exists today. But if you spend some time, like, you can imagine this being built into a wallet, and then it would be a normal spending part, but it will be for that specific wallet. But you can also think that, like, maybe half a year from now, if the extra project delivers the templates as promised, then maybe this entire vault can be described in a template, and then you can install it into any wallet that supports it. And suddenly it's back to being like, spending it is no harder than spending from peer to public key hash. And you don't need the website in order to actually do the recovery. It's just encoded in the template entirely. So I think finding the use cases and finding the values that people want to have is a really important part. This is a very good first step towards making something work. And then over time, you can always refine and improve on the user experience as you get better and better and more involved in the ecosystem. And as the tooling
the earlier you are on the curve of facing these problems and figuring them out and dealing with early infrastructure and early consensus, whatever it is that the issues that you're facing, the earlier it is you get into that and start solving them, the better positioned you will be to actually, create a successful business or to create a good team, because you'll know all these things well. And then once things improve, like infrastructure improves, the tooling improves, you'll be well placed to take advantage of those and act instead of coming and learning. So it's great to see, and whatever struggles you're facing, they will turn into your strength later. So
yes. I want to just double down on that, which is, I always think of things I'm Australian, right? So I always think of things in terms of a gold rush, right? When there's a huge gold thing, somewhere, and everybody rushes into it, the people who are the best placed are the ones who were already there. They were already living in that town. They already knew the locals. They were already setting up their shop or their mining equipment or whatever, and they're already well placed for when everybody floods in. So even if Jonathan is saying, yeah, there might be new technology coming and so forth, the first people to hear about it, the first people to integrate with it, and the first people to benefit from it are going to be the people that already have momentum and projects running. You can't be starting the Bitcoin Cash podcast when it's rocketing into the top 10. That's never going to work. You've got to already be producing episodes, have everything ready to go, so that then suddenly when the eye of the world turns onto it, you're there to capture that value. And I think that's true of all projects. And I also want to highlight what Emergent said about, you definitely can't fool the judges, so don't even bother trying, but you should still try and make it. They will also consider what it would be like as a consumer to use those projects. So the clearer you can make it, obviously, the better. Turik asks, could you guys clarify the rule about updating the project after the submission deadline? I'm planning to keep working on the jump site, so just not update the actual site during judging period. So I think really the answer is, you just need to be very clear at what point the project has stopped And if you want to keep working, make a copy. So either make a copy of your project right before the submission deadline, host that up and link that from all of your information and say, here is the hackathon version, essentially, which is frozen at that point, and then keep working on the main version. Or you can do it the other way around. You can have the hackathon version is the main version, and then you can split off a version and make a side project and just keep working on that for the next week until after the judging, and then swap one in for the other. So just as long as it's very clear in your submission, in your links at the top of your Dorahacks, which is the hackathon version and which is the real version or the developed version, then that's fine, I think. Okay.
I'd like to just add from my perspective on that one, that includes like deployed, right? If you're deploying to, Vercel or whatever, you're deploying to some kind of system, make sure you absolutely don't update that. It's not necessarily true that we'll be able to detect it, but with this group of judges, it's probably very likely that this group of judges will detect it.
Yeah.
If you update your app after the fact. So just don't do it. It's going to be a fairness thing. And although it's tempting to just do a little update or a little bug fix or whatever it is, just don't do that, because that's very likely to get you disqualified.
Also, whoever is coming in to win, before we hand out the prizes, there might be some, last minute double checks on their site specifically, right? So probably, not something you want to be gambling on.
That's right.
Okay, we have one more cash stamp. And then I also wanted to give a little bit of a reminder about the EMBER tokens that we have. So we have airdropped that 5 EMBER to every Jessica and Velma holder. And there's been a lot of activity actually on Cauldron about that. So if you are watching this stream and you're interested in being a part of the community choice voting, then you can go and pick some up on Cauldron. Their volume has actually been incredible. I think there was already over like $5,000 of volume. There was 30 plus EMBER locked in the TVL. So it's great to see people engaging with and enjoying that. And it's one thing that Jonathan noted, which is that it's almost like a bonus prize. So once again, make sure that you have your cash tokens address at the top of your BUIDL so that people can easily send you embers, because if you have the most embers, you'll be in the running for that one BCH. And if you aren't, well, then you've got whatever embers people sent you. So, just for all Jessica holders, Velma holders, make sure to use that, because after the submission, there'll be the showcase period next week and then next weekend, and then we'll have one more week, and then we'll probably decide on the community choice decision. We've got to give people time to review those projects and send tokens to their favorites. So that won't be announced next week, but just be paying attention if you have some of those tokens. And also the Trailblazer tokens as well. Like I mentioned, we're going to have a special mystery token, Trailblazer token, that we're going to hand out to all of the participants. So that's another key reason to have your cash tokens address right at the top of your BUIDL, and that will become important for Bliss 2026, even if you can't make it in person. So just look out for those. Okay, we also have one more video that I released as part of Blaze. Obviously, we're trying to spread BCH education, and since Blaze is focused on the Layla upgrade, I thought it would be a great time to help people understand about the chip process. That's something that maybe people who are new to the community or who are digging into it for the first time might be confused about it, especially if you've come from other cryptocurrencies where they have a foundation or a central guy or whoever that decides what is the next update. It can be a bit of a mystery to people. So we've created this video that we're going to play now to help everyone understand the chip process. What is the chip process? The chip cash improvement proposal process is the governance process for Bitcoin Cash. It has been in use since 2021. and successfully shipped 5 major non-contentious and bug-free network upgrades, 1 per year. Cryptocurrencies are distributed software projects. All software is upgradable. They require not only regular maintenance and bug fixes, but also new features and improvements to stay competitive with alternatives. So all cryptocurrencies inevitably have some kind of upgrade process. Lacking a defined governance process is not quote-unquote decentralized, it's disorganized, chaotic, and ineffective. There will always be some process for decisions, and if it is not known and agreed publicly, then in reality, the decisions will be made by people with influence who operate quietly outside of public accountability. That said, a cryptocurrency governance process is also a potential risk. A bad governance process can become bureaucratic, contentious, manipulated by bad actors, or simply arrive at poor decisions. So governance is a tricky area which different coins take a variety of approaches to. The chip process is the BCH governance process developed from the lessons learnt in the era of Bitcoin civil wars with BTC, BSV, and XEC. It is minimal, flexible, and sabotage resistant while being practical, clear, and useful. As decentralization requires, it has no central coordinator or actor. Chips are proposed by anyone in BCH with an idea for a network level upgrade. The default decision for any proposed change is no. Building consensus on an upgrade is a burden of the proposer and requires overwhelmingly clear support. This makes it intentionally difficult, but not impossible, to change the network rules. Many successful chips required several years to build sufficient approval, and many others were never accepted. The chip proposer is responsible for discussing with the community and iterating on feedback until their chip is in a compelling state. Once the proposer feels confident in their proposal, they can seek endorsements for their chip, a non-voting social cohesion process further explained in a moment. A successful chip signals to stakeholders it has reached consensus and locks in on the recurring deadline of November 15th each year. Chips that have locked in on November 15th activate live on mainnet on May 15th the following year. This allows 6 months of time for node implementations, developer tooling, wallets, and other software to integrate and test the upcoming changes. If any significant flaw were to come to light during this time, the upgrade can also be paused or halted ahead of rollout. It also gives time for consumer education and allows projects to prepare exciting releases to show off the new upgrades as soon as they activate. Discussion and iteration of chips that have not locked in continues year-round, until either the proposer abandons it or it receives sufficient overwhelming support in endorsements before the lock-in date of November 15 during a following year. The process for endorsements begins once a proposer feels confident their feedback-inspired revisions have reached a point of stability and clear value without unaddressed objections. To collect endorsements, the proposer solicits on-the-record endorsement statements, positive or negative, from as many relevant stakeholders in the ecosystem as they can. Stakeholders can include users, developers, miners, merchants, exchanges, or anyone else impacted by a change. A chip which has an overwhelming amount of positive endorsements from relevant stakeholders with few or no consequential negative or unaddressed statements signals to stakeholders it is ready for lock-in. The chip process is not a vote, and nobody is ever forced to run any software or compelled into any other action. Chips and expressions of support for them are judged independently by each other stakeholder as they prefer. There is no quantified bar for approval and no defined measure of impact per endorsement. Chip endorsements, or proposals themselves, by influential or respected community members in practice have more weight, built on their history of proof of work and good judgment, but this is an organic social mechanism. The threshold of overwhelming support among stakeholders has no specific number or definition, but is very obvious in practice. Chips work by the pragmatic reality of an aligned group of people slowly shifting to a new position in a low-pressure environment through public debate and continuous adjustment. If this sounds unintuitive, consider a huddle of penguins, which can migrate across the ice without an individual ever breaking away from the group to a point of total isolation. If a chip is contentious, indicating breaking cohesion, then the default no response prevails. The huddle will not move without clear and broad evidence-based support for a valuable new direction. In practice, contentious issues with a chip are worked out and addressed during the iteration process well ahead of the proposer soliciting endorsements, as seeking endorsements on an incomplete or questionable chip will significantly hurt its chances of approval. The chip process is Sybil resistant, i.e. cannot be flooded with quote-unquote endorsements from fake accounts, because influential stakeholders have long-running public credibility and existing communication channels amongst themselves. Any fake campaign is immediately obvious, since it won't have support from a notable contingent of aligned known contributors. Anyone can become an influential stakeholder, but it takes hard-earned public and valuable contributions, including good faith participation in the chip process, to the network over time to accrue credibility in the eyes of other network participants. In our penguin analogy, no huddle would ever be fooled by the sudden arrival of a suspicious batch of unfamiliar penguins, all desperate to create momentum in a concerted direction, since new penguins start without credibility among long-standing group members. Good faith penguins can only gain influence by proving effective in cooperating with existing group members and helping the huddle progress safely over time. So become part of the huddle and join in the BCH chip process today. Community discussion has no fixed venue, but some suggested hotspots are linked below. For more about chip documents, see the examples provided in the description below too. All right, and we have an opportunity for questions. If everyone has any questions or comments, including anybody who's in the call here, any of the hackers want to chime in and talk about, their experience with Blaze or any related things. Turek says, are there any plans to support the best projects after the hackathon is over, incorporating them into the ecosystem, mentorship on future development, etc.? What happens after this is all over? Yes, there is, and we have a number of initiatives in that sense. The first is that obviously people have hopefully already made some connections during the hackathon. They've been asking questions. For instance, with my bounties, I already have now contact with those teams that I'm going to be doing what I can to assist them. But specifically in the larger sense, we have BCH1, which is going to run at the start of next year, and we're going to help them by referring the most promising projects to them so that they can assist with the mentorship and potentially also pitching for investment and so forth. If you look up Bitcoin Cash podcast episode with J Master Pig recently, it was number 167, I think. Then you can hear more about that initiative. Then also the winners, the winning team and the second and third place also get some tickets to BCH Bliss. So we will be working with those winners as well to show up to Bliss, and where they can, of course, meet more people and build more connections, and then also hand them off to the rest of the ecosystem, and potentially also plan a big launch at Bliss itself that, we can give them extra visibility on the stream and so forth if they have a 1.0 release ready to go by then. So, of course, we're going to do everything that we can to help teams that are making progress and have promising, momentum in terms of giving them the prizes, which of course can include money and Bliss tickets, references to BCH1. Of course, anybody can ask in the Telegram group, and we'll refer you to other Telegram groups and resources, and then of course Bliss as well too. So those are our methodologies. Okay, Furkan Geldi says, thank you for the hackathon. You gave us the opportunity to introduce ourselves and our ideas. You also place great importance on interaction during the hackathon. Thank you. Thank you, Furkan. I'm looking forward to seeing your finished Fortress Vault project. PJ Man says, I'm way out of my league, lol. Well, hopefully not for too much longer. That's the idea, You might feel a little bit overwhelmed right now, but you wait. At next year's Blaze, you'll be an old hand handing out information to all of the newcomers. Like I say on the podcast, sometimes confusion is really just the feeling of learning. You know, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
And you can have all the skill in the world, and if you don't do something with it, it doesn't matter. So if you're actually doing something, that counts.
Yeah, that's right. Learning is the only, what do they say? In practice, no, in theory and practice are the same, but in practice, they're not. Love that saying. Okay, Salem Code, it is the first time I'm dealing with cash script in a hackathon. Thank you so much. Well, yes, very glad to hear you also being inspired to jump in on that. Just let me check. Okay. Saeed is also starting up some last minute hacking there, like we were talking about with the final exponential. Even in the last 24 hours, hackers appearing to sneak in before the deadline. And I think that will roughly round us out then. If nobody else has any questions, we've got to give a shout out. Oh yeah, go on. You got a question yet?
Has anyone submitted a project using CashScript.py yet?
CashScript.py, I don't know.
Okay.
Judges, I don't know. Did you see any CashScript.py, any Python based stuff?
I have not yet.
Okay. Remains to be seen, but maybe not. Maybe coming in the last 24 hours.
Well, whoever submits one will get one of my Ember tokens.
Okay. All right. The incentives are rapidly rising.
I'm going to go make an account.
The Ember token scammer himself. All right.
I wanted to say Salem Code, you mentioned Salem Code. He's here in the chat. He helped a lot with Flipstarter, with improving it and making it better over time and helping to maintain it. So really appreciate his work on that. Kind of an aside here.
It's great to see. That's at the end of the day, it makes it feel all so much more real, you know, when you see the same names popping up over and over and you get the chance to work with them on different projects. That's amazing. And that's a lot of what we're trying to facilitate with Blaze and, of course, with Bliss as well. All right, for the sponsors then, BCH Bull, a unique web application that allows users to take long positions with leverage or hedge Bitcoin Cash against a number of other metals, fiat, and crypto assets, bchbull.com. General Protocols prides itself on developing permissionless, trustless, borderless financial solutions for the whole world. We are working at the frontier of UTXO blockchain development, generalprotocols.com. The Bitcoin Cash podcast combines the latest cryptocurrency and Bitcoin Cash news with deep dives on BCH topics featuring a variety of guests from the BCH community, bitcoincashpodcast.com. Selene Wallet puts easy, no hassle, instant payments in the palm of your hand. Experience the future of money, a digital economy powered by Bitcoin Cash at selene.cash. Cash Stamps allows users to create and redeem BCH stamps for gifts, promotion and adoption of Bitcoin Cash at stamps.cash. Blockchain for Good Alliance harness the transformative power of blockchain technology to tackle some of the most critical challenges facing society and the world at large today. Chainforgood.org. BCH One is the signal layer for Bitcoin Cash. Community discovery, builder, velocity, and capital alignment at bch1.org. And Big Hair Tom, an old timer that wants wallet addresses simplified. Thank you once again to all of them for donating to the prize pool and making things happen here at Blaze. Couldn't do it without you. Okay, we've got one more cash stab and then some final announcements, reminders from me. You've got just under 24 hours, I guess now under 23 hours to make sure your submissions are ready. So please pay attention to those critical points that we mentioned before. Submit a BUIDL. Make sure right at the top you have a Widget Factory template and you also have a cash tokens enabled address, not just a BCH address, cash tokens address, so that you can receive Ember token votes. I guess if you don't, then you will not be able to receive those prizes or the Bliss tickets if you win them. So it's very, very critical that you get a cash tokens address using Cash and Eyes, Selene, or Paytaka, or Electron Cash Desktop, I guess, but certainly don't use a wallet that doesn't support that. Make sure you have the Widget Factory template and highlight your use of the Layla chips if you are in the chip net track. Next week, we'll be back at the same time, Saturday, November the 29th at 2 p.m. for the showcase stream. So that is where the judges will hand down their final verdicts, help us review some of the projects. We'll talk a little bit about the themes, I guess, of what was popular, what was not so popular. And we would love it for teams to also give a demo. Of course, we saw the video from Fortress Vault today. So if anybody wants to prepare a video for next week to show off their project, they're very welcome to do it. It would be, outside of the hackathon, not included in the submission, but you do have another week where you might be at a loose end. So if you wanted to make some kind of demo, or if you want to come on the stream yourself and show off what you're doing, maybe do a screen share or answer questions or, hype up what you're doing, that would all be much appreciated as well too. You can just talk to me in the Blaze Telegram chat and we'll line that up. We'll have the judging and final review next week at Saturday the 29th at 2 p.m. UTC. The contact points for Blaze are at the Dorahacks question tab in the Telegram at BCH Blaze and on Twitter at BCH Blaze. And of course, if you're enjoying Blaze, check out the BCH ecosystem at large. There is tons of stuff going on above and beyond. It feels a bit overwhelming because Blaze already has plenty happening, but there's a lot more going on outside and around that as well too. So you can have a look at the Bitcoin Cash podcast or the BCH bullet to find out about that. Okay, Jonathan, maybe any final words of encouragement for the last 24 hours and then we'll sign off.
Yeah, I have made sure that everyone that provided a testnet address for their submissions have gotten ShipNet or testnet tokens as intended. But if you, for some reason, did not provide an address and you need some tokens, hop on our Telegram channel at t.me/bchblaze and just ask, and I'll send you some more. Also, if you lost yours or if you already spent all of them, just let me know and I'll give you some new ones. Other than that, good luck. It's the last 23 hours to go. This is where most of the work happens.
Where champions are
Yeah.
born. All right. Good luck, everyone. We'll let you get back to hacking and look forward
Jeremy,
to...
I wanted to add one little thing. If you
on.
do want to submit a video or have one shared during the stream at the end, you probably want to limit it, make sure to limit it to a handful of minutes.
A minute or two.
I don't know, a minute or 2
minutes.
max.
2 minute max. 2 minute max, definitely. And better, a minute or 90 seconds. But you can also be on hand on the stream to talk about it as well too. If people have some questions, it would be nice. Obviously we can't do hundreds of different projects, but the priority will go to people who come and talk to us beforehand and say they want to reserve a little slot to talk about their project. You can even ask the judges for direct feedback once we're in that final showcase stream. So you can look forward to that. Just reach out to me, like I said. Okay, thank you all for being here. Thank you all to the viewing audience at home. Final 23 hours, crack on with your submission. Submission deadline, 2 p.m. UTC tomorrow. Get at it. All right, thank you all for listening. Till next time.